Hello sword fam, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Brittany. Today I'm going to be talking about the Crecy Longsword by Kingdom of Arms. And here it is. This is the Crecy by Kingdom of Arms. This is a sharp sword. It does ship sharp, but like with most sharps, obviously, you can't really expect the factory edge to be optimized for cutting, so full disclosure, I did have this sharpened by my good friend Julian Schutze, who spent a lot of time putting the perfect edge on this sword. It's sort of not fair to judge a sharp sword on the factory edge, especially if you can put a better edge on it that's just, really fine, and then you can really see what the sword is capable of. And that is absolutely true of this one here. Now, before I get into the cutting performance, let's talk a little bit about the sword itself. So as you can see here, it actually does come with a wooden scabbard, which I think was pretty cool because it's actually like included in the whole purchase itself. This wasn't like additional to it. It actually just comes with it. So it's nice because it's got a full wood, like that's all it is just wood, which is nice because obviously I know that that's not going to damage the edge or anything. The one thing about it is that it's kind of loose. So like I can shake it and it'll come off. So I would have preferred a little bit more of a tighter fit, but that's personal preference. So other than that, it's nice that it actually comes with one instead of just shipping in a cardboard box and then me having to find a rifle case for it. This is nice because it just, it's nice to have. Comes with some optional little buckles here, which again, a nice feature. I never used it personally because I don't really like wear my swords or anything. I know some people do for like reenactment or like, fun, but I don't, so I didn't actually get a chance to really like apply this feature, but it's kind of cool that it comes with it if I ever decided to use it. So taking a look at it here, this is a 5160 steel that the blade is made of. Point of balance is actually pretty close to the cross at 2¼ inches. So this is a pretty big sword, and it only weighs about 2 pounds, 13 ounces, but its overall just dimensions are pretty big. And having a nice closer point of balance, I really liked because as soon as I started handling this sword, my first impression visually was like, oh, this is gonna be kind of heavy and unwieldy. I wasn't really expecting it to be so nicely balanced, and I really, really like having a closer point of balance. That's just my personal preference. We've got a 33-inch blade from tip to cross, so it's not necessarily a really, really big sword, but it's definitely your traditional like long sword or 1.5 kind of length. So it's got a wheel pommel here, as you can see. I did find that the pommel was pretty hefty. I mean, it is a thick pommel for some of the other swords that I'm used to, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I think it actually helps with the balance overall. Obviously, your pommel is the counterweight, and I think it does a really great job because handling this actually doesn't feel that long, that big, that heavy. It has really nice presence. This comes with a standard black leather grip. What I really do appreciate is the finish on this grip. There is a seam, but I can't see it. Like, it is so finely finished that I can't see that seam at all. And one thing that I've noticed with some of my other sharp swords, especially my competition swords, over time, as I utilize the hilt, I will start to notice the leather peeling back a little bit on the seam, and I always have to re-glue that down. I don't see this happening because I can't even see the seam on the leather, which is actually really nice. In terms of cutting, I was very impressed with this sword. I will fully admit, like I will be 100% honest, that I had never tried a Kingdom of Arms sword before. I'm sort of a little bit of a sharp sword snob, and so I usually gear towards Albion, Arms and Armor, Angus Trim. So when I had the opportunity to get my hands on a Kingdom of Arms sword, it's not that I was skeptical, but I was cautiously optimistic. So I was very, very happy the first time I cut with this to really enjoy this sword. Like I said, I have a very high standard because of the other types of sharps that I'm used to and the kinds that I've purchased and that I cut with regularly. So kind of coming into a new brand, like I said, cautiously optimistic. And when I actually cut with this for the first time, I was really happy to actually just genuinely be impressed with it. To get a feel for how this sword cut, I had cut 2 different mediums. I had cut paper and I had cut tatami. Cutting paper, I really enjoyed this. Obviously, I mean, cutting paper isn't necessarily difficult from a power standpoint, but it can be difficult from an edge alignment perspective and a speed perspective. And I was prepared that this sword might feel a little bit heavy and I couldn't really get enough power through it. But again, the point of balance, the counterweight for the pommel, the overall length, I found this to be pretty nimble and actually pretty quick to handle, which was awesome because I'm not a very big person. And when I feel a heavy sword, and oftentimes when the point of balance is pretty far, I struggle to really get that sword moving with enough speed and enough like just agility to do multiple cuts. And this one I had no problem, which was awesome. I also cut tatami with this when I was preparing for the Helsinki Longsword Open. When I was preparing for that tournament in Finland, I had used a ton of different sharp swords so that I could try and calibrate instead of to one specific type of sword. I wanted to try and mix things up so that I could test my cutting no matter what type of sword I used. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to try one of the cutting feats for that tournament using a sword I'd never used before. And I was like stunned. The very first cut, I had put a ton of power into it, again thinking I would need to just because of like what I thought would be the heft of the sword. And I put a lot of my body into it and I overcut. Now I made the cut, but you can tell that I like almost overdid it, like too much emphasis on the cut. And I was like surprised, like, oh, wow, this is actually a really good cutter. Like I don't need to put in that much force to like force it through the mat. So it's a little bit deceiving. It looks like a heavy, big, chonky sword, and it doesn't feel that way at all.
Very nice. Fantastic. Oh, look at that.
So overall, my impression with this sword is very positive. I really enjoyed it. Again, I think it's kind of a sleeper because looks are deceiving. It looks kind of clunky, it looks really big, but it doesn't perform that way. And I can say that with a lot of confidence because I'm not a big, strong person. I'm not tall, you know, I'm not super strong. So I am actually relying on the performance of the sword and just, you know, sheer cutting ability to be able to make this do the cuts that I want it to do. So I'm not muscling through, and this was a really nice sword in terms of handling. It's fast, it's nimble, it's actually quite light overall. And then the nice thing too is that working with Kingdom of Arms was a very positive experience. They were really nice to me, and being able to add this to my collection is really, really cool. So they were really fast with their shipping. Again, I appreciated that it came with a scabbard, but it also got shipped like in the scabbard and then in a box. So I knew it was being well taken care of. And Clyde had followed up with me, you know, hey, do you like it? Like, is it, you know, to your expectations? And so like they genuinely care about the product itself, and I really appreciated that. And there you have it, the Crecy by Kingdom of Arms. Hopefully you found this review helpful and informative, and maybe you'll think about checking out Kingdom of Arms, which I will link below in the description, as well as more detailed specs on the dimensions for this sword. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support.